Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode 151. I'm Emily McDermott, and I am here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. Would you be surprised if I told you that I struggle to declutter sometimes? Is that surprising to you? You're like, wait a minute, why am I listening to you again? But I get caught up in everything else in my life and I procrastinate on decluttering. Eek! So today I am going to be sharing 3 steps to help you if you are procrastinating and constantly putting off decluttering. Because even though it is important to our health, we don't always prioritize it. And I have some awesome tips to share with you today. So, what do you say? Grab the notebook and pen and let's dive into today's episode. Just a quick reminder before we dive into these 3 steps that there is a home for you to get that accountability for decluttering. If you want a supportive group of moms just like you that are trying to declutter their homes, heads, and hearts, head over to tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Answer a couple questions and you can be part of our group. We do bi-weekly decluttering challenges and I can't wait to see you there. All right, let's dive into these 3 steps. I hope you have your notebook and pen ready because I'm going to ask you to write some of these things down. And the first step is to really figure out where your roadblock or roadblocks are when it comes to a decluttering project. So I'm going to make this list here and you can write down any of them that might apply to you. Is it putting the time aside to actually do it? Is it prioritizing it over other things that you have going on? Is it actually figuring out what to keep and what to get rid of? Is it selling versus donating that you get really hung up on how much you paid for something and that keeps you from moving forward? Or is it getting out of the house once you've decided you want to declutter it? Here's a little spoiler alert. The last one is what I deal with the most. I have a basement that is filled with things I know I want to declutter, but I haven't decluttered yet. So this episode is for me too. So once you have figured out those roadblocks that might be holding you back, I want you to look at that whole process and take what is happening the earliest in that process and get curious about the why behind it and be able to kind of reframe that. So we don't want to be judging ourselves. You have to remember you are not broken. You are not chronically disorganized, that you can't get your life together. The system that you have in place isn't working for you. So let's go ahead and figure out how to get it to work, right? Okay, so here are a couple examples of how you can do some of this reframing. Let's say that your struggle is you tell yourself, I don't have time to do it. So then we're going to ask a couple of questions. Well, why don't you have time to do it? Maybe it's because you're exhausted and your life is really chaotic. And then the question is, well, why is life chaotic? And you can list a number of things that are going on. I've actually heard about this. It's called the 7 layers or 7 levels deep exercise, where you have a statement and then you ask why 7 times to kind of get to that root answer. But once you figure out some of the reasons your life might be chaotic, maybe it is a crazy extracurricular schedule for your kids. Maybe it is that you can't stay on top of your paperwork. It could be any number of things. But then you want to ask yourself, what is one thing that you have control over to change that chaos? And write down that small item because we're going to get back to it in just a little bit. But let's do another example. Maybe your reason or excuse is that I can't decide what to keep and what to get rid of. Okay, well, why is this a problem for you? Well, it could be any number of reasons that we've talked about on the podcast before that you might need it someday. You want to hold on to it just in case. maybe it's how much you've paid for it, or maybe it's sentimental reasons. Those are just a few of the mental roadblocks that you might come against. And I do have a free resource. I'm going to link it in the show notes. It is the 5 mindset shifts to help you let go of clutter. And you can work through some of these mental roadblocks, or of course, you can work with me. And you can find all my coaching information over at simplebyemmy.com/coaching. But also, when you're talking about like decisions being difficult, just recognizing that more stuff means more choices, and more choices means more decisions, which leads to that decision fatigue. So it is sort of that vicious cycle of it being hard to make decisions about stuff, but the more stuff you have, the more decisions you have to make. So if indecision is keeping you stuck, how can you make decisions easier? Is there maybe one category that you can look at and figure out, okay, do I really want to hold on to this just in case? For clothing, am I realistically going to be losing the 20 pounds in order for this to fit again? Just start asking yourself some of those questions. Okay, let's do one more example, which is the one that I struggle with. So this is great for me. I have decided I want to donate something, but I can't seem to get it out of my house. Okay, why, Emily? Why can't you get it out of your house? Well, for me, I have been posting things on Buy Nothing, and in my mind, I have the perception that is going to take too long. Okay, well, how long does it actually take? It only takes a couple of minutes, but I put it off because it just seems like it'll be too much work. So then the question is, okay, that's not working for you. So how can you approach it differently? What else can you do? Again, we're not getting down on ourselves saying, what's wrong with you? Emily, you're a declutter coach and you can't get stuff out of your house. Well, I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm going to say, okay, this isn't working. How can we make it work? And in this case, my idea or my answer would be to do a green drop donation for everything that I'm not planning to sell. And so those are just some ways we can start to reframe. And then we're going to move on to step number 3, which is to commit to one small action around that thing that you have control over. So let's go back to that first example. I don't have time to do it. You start figuring out why my life is chaotic, what's going on, and perhaps mealtime is super chaotic because you haven't had any kind of meal plan in place. So perhaps the one thing that you can have control over that can help you find more time is to experiment with a 14-day rotating meal plan. Or another aspect might be that you experiment with family, your whole family, doing a 5-minute post-dinner tidy up for a week and see if that helps things feel less chaotic so that you have more capacity to declutter. So then the next example we gave, I can't decide what to keep or get rid of. So let's decide on one item or one category of items. So let's say it's my clothing. I'm going to go through my short sleeve shirts and I am going to decide what I love and what I like. And for anything that I don't, I'm going to consider letting go or using that out of sight, out of mind bin, and use artificial boundaries to determine how much I'm keeping, but just for one category of clothing or subcategory. Or maybe you say, I'm just going to look through 10 shirts today. Make it so small that you can't say no. And then thirdly, the one that is the issue for me, not being able to get the things I want to declutter out of my house, I'm going to separate the green drop donations from what I'm selling and get the green drop donations into my car with the expectation that the next time that I'm up near the grocery store, which is where the drop-off point is, I'm going to drop that off. So I hope that these 3 steps are helpful to you if you are constantly putting off decluttering. Again, just to recap, the first step is to figure out what your roadblocks are when it comes to a decluttering project. And then step 2, take whatever happens earliest in the process and get curious about the why behind it. And then the third step is to commit to one small action around the thing that you have control over. And on Thursday, I'm really excited to do something I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is to bring you a snippet of a coaching call that I recently had with my client, Vanessa. And we're talking about getting family members on board. We're talking about issues when you keep wanting to bring stuff into your house because it's a good deal. Lots of mindset stuff going on. So I can't wait to see you on Thursday. Bye for now.